you to sort out your slides.
All right.
Leave you to sort out your slides.
Well,
Wine.
Yes, because I didn't think about that in advance.
Yeah, it's alright, I can figure out slides. Vaguely, I think.
You must work in IT.
Something like that. I mean, it's a bit weird being a reliability engineer at a front-end meetup because normally we're swearing at each other a lot. Tonight, no, let's not. So yes, my name's Lee. I'm a senior site reliability engineer at Blank Company. Some of my colleagues, however, refer to me as this for some quite interesting reasons that we won't go into tonight. A lot of people feel that I look like a sad extra from Sons of Apathy. I'm not here to talk to you about motorcycles. Instead, I'm here to talk to you about crisis. I'm doing the evil bit now, audience participation. Who knows about crisis? Hands up. Excellent, that makes my life 10 times easier. Who is in the private rental sector for their home accommodation at the moment? Okay. Now, next one. Who has been threatened with homelessness at any point? Okay. And the last one. Has anyone actually been homeless? Okay. Cool. So we've got some idea and some understanding. It's quite a big talk, this one. I'm covering a lot of different areas, so there's some information in there. It's about ending homelessness, the scale of crisis at Christmas, the digital inclusion scale, what we actually do to make the web accessible for our guests there, and finally a word from our guests, because they can say these things far better than I can. So one of the really scary stats out there, and a word note on this one, I don't do hot facts. Every single stat in there is referenced. I'm quite happy to provide the slides out there. It's all linked, you can pull this data as well. So this is one of the more scary stats, that 37% of working families, if they lost one source of income, would not be able to cover their cost of living for more than a month. That's not us in this room. We're really, really fortunate in that. A lot of people are that close. Next scary stat, that without access to primary care, i.e. your GP, your dentist, the streets become a very dangerous place and you don't actually stand a chance of living for very long. One of the major causes of death actually is minor infections that scale out of control. It's pretty grim there. So how do people get into this situation? Well, we have the top 5 causes there, and the biggest one is loss of private rental tenancy, followed by relationship breakdown and loss of job. Notice that substance addiction isn't in there. That's often a major misconception that it's substance addiction that causes the problem. That's a way of coping with the situation that you're in. 2 cents to get a trackpad. So, this one is a lovely graph. I say lovely. It's all from the MHCLG Statutory Homeless Statistics indexed to 2008-2009 financial year and the causes. End of AST is end of a short hold tenancy, i.e. private rental. Now, if you look at how that graph has moved over the years, note when the kick-up started. Now think about that on Thursday. Yeah, think about that Thursday. And fortunately, we're now starting to see a downfall on that one, and that's with the introduction of Homeless Reduction Act, which came in 2018. So, what we've seen is rough sleeping levels have risen by 165% since 2010. That is a hell of a lot. I'm sure we've all seen that walking around London. You can't help but escape the fact that this is increasing. And in terms of numbers of households that have been accepted into being homeless, this is what we're looking at across England, Scotland and Wales. We don't have figures from this year for Northern Ireland because that's done on a biannual basis. That's not a small number of households that have been accept it as having a statutory care duty. It's really expensive having a homeless population as well. So 40,000 people a year, we prevented them from being homeless. That's £370 million we save. You can do a lot of money, a lot with 370 million, a hell of a lot. And during 2012, the cost of homelessness was estimated at being £1 billion gross. In the same report, the cost of temporary accommodation was said to be 100 million. Do you think that's going up or down? Yeah, no one's saying no. Well, you'd be right, it's going up. So we've seen that increase by 6.5 times the amount. Early intervention can make a huge difference to people. It can save a lot of money and save a lot of lives. So that's definitely something we should be looking at. So crisis. They want to end homelessness, and that's something that I think we should all aim for. So they've so far helped 11,000 people on their journey out of homelessness. This is figures taken from the Skylight Centre, which you probably have no idea of what they do, but that is the follow-on service from Crisis at Christmas. It covers training, education. Has anyone been to the cafe up the road? Yeah. Everyone working in that cafe is actually training to get their certifications in food and hospitality. It gives them some real world experience, and the food's really bloody good as well. So what is Crisis at Christmas? It's a rest, it's a break, it's some respite. It's 8 days where our guests can unwind in a safe, warm and comfortable environment and get access to services and care that they actually need in order to move further forwards on their journey. It's really bloody big as well. So we've got 13,000 volunteers and 4,000 guests coming in for 8 days. Now, I don't know if you've tried to organise like parties or anything, but 13,000 people trying to get that sorted is really bloody hard. So, what they're covering across there is different types of centres. It's the day centres, where you're in from 8 o'clock in the morning through to about 8 o'clock at night. There's the residential centres, which are operational 24 hours a day for the full 8 days, and give you somewhere to sleep as well. There's a women's only centre, and there's a dependency centre as well for those with dependency issues. There's also a dog centre. I always forget that one. So that's really nice. It's got kennels and vets there. Fantastic. So things that can be accessed are crucially its advice, healthcare, entertainment, IT cafe, one of the busiest things that we've ever got going on in there, and crucially the sewing service. Because when you've got a small amount of clothes, keeping those things that you hold dear going is really, really important. So how do we organise those 13,000? We use this. This thing is a lovely old cronky thing that just keeps going. It is our portal for getting volunteers in, the volunteer community. So on this, it's got your news, it's got your shift management in there, it's got the forum on there, so that's really hugely populated by new volunteers that are nervous about what are they going to be encountering during all this. Is it going to be a scary experience? And the answer generally is no, actually it's really quite lovely and everyone's really peaceful and you drink a lot of tea and play board games, so that's always nice. So in terms of managing your shifts, which is the core functionality of this, you've got your locations that you choose in there. Yes, there are some redacted bits in there for reasons. So you choose your location, then there's your shift selection, and there's some rules that go into your shift selection as well. So there's a minimum number of shifts for each role, but there's also enforced gapping between shifts, so you can't run yourself ragged because we really need you to keep functioning all the way through. particularly when it gets after the 25th of December, because that's the hardest time where we get a lot of dropouts. And then finally you get your shift selection. Once you hit save on this, it uploads everything to SparkShift, which is the email service. And that sends about 300,000 emails in total across the Christmas period, reminding people of shifts, updating them on changes, notifications on their posts. It's quite a big email delivery. But the forum, that's where a lot of people like to hang out. And yeah, advice for parking at Croydon nights. Parking is always a big thing on this, particularly for our lovely night owls who are there from 10 PM till 8 AM the next day. There's also quite a bit in there as well around lift sharing and how can I get in when there is no public transport, because that's a thing that everyone always forgets over Christmas, that the tube doesn't run on Christmas Day. It works really quite well. This is one of the big things that a lot of people think, that homeless people don't need the internet. And actually, that couldn't be further from the truth. There's a lot of services out there that have gone digital only. So universal credit as a case in point. It's something that you can actually only access online. There is no paper way of doing this. Housing agencies have cut back massively, particularly in the public sector, around having staff in there. They want everything delivered via online form. Job searches. Well, if you're on universal credit, you've got to perform your job searches. You need to do this through an online system. And so if you don't have access to the online system, how do you start? One of the really interesting bits, though, that I see every single year without fail is keeping in touch with friends and family. And that's one of the nicest uses of the web, is seeing people connect with old friends, old family, having those conversations. It's a time where they can do that. Scale of digital inclusion is one bit that I'm throwing in as well, which is something you might have heard of before. It's a GBS-derived thing. So we have the scale that runs from 1 to 9, of 1 being never have, never will use the internet, up to 9 being experts. I mean, quite blatantly in here, we're all a 9, there's no questions asked on this one. Now we see people that actually fit across all of this scale within the homeless population. The general UK population distribution on this is the bottom third is 14% of the UK population, the middle third fits at 7%, and the top third is 79%. It wasn't last year, it was the year before last. I was having a lovely conversation with a guest about the validity of 802.11 certificates in a Wi-Fi environment. I was like, yeah, okay, you clearly know the stuff. Conveniently, I got a deal with a previous company I worked at. I sent them interesting people. He had an interview 3 days later in a job. So that's a really nice thing. But we do see people across that whole gamut. Now, there's a bit of research done after Brent Council moved all their systems online around ease of accessing and using the internet. Now, it's about a 50-50 split there between those that find it easy and those that find it hard. Again, if you're going to take everything online, you're excluding 50% of the people. Those are probably the people that really need to use your services. So, you've got to think about these things. The other thing is, where do people access it? So, there's an awful lot of people that have their own device. There's an awful lot of people that access using shared devices as well. So it'd be that library computers, computer clubs, schools. There's a lot of that. So, thinking about this, if we increase that digital element, we're excluding those in need. Access to these shared machines is getting harder and harder. Support for less confident users, again, is getting harder. So, how can we make that better? I don't have the answer to that one. It's a tough area, but let's make things as intuitive as we can, and let's help them through the process as well. Yeah, it does come back to that how most people are more tech savvy than you think. We've done some straw polls at some sites over the years, and about 90% of the guests there had smartphones. On the other hand, have you tried to buy a non-smartphone? It's really bloody difficult. It took forever to track one down that could actually last from the start blasting to the end without even charging every 20 minutes. So maybe we should consider making our services more mobile friendly by default. And of course, everyone's very familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's how the human psyche responds to stimulus and threats. And this was created in 1943. However, this one is a little bit more relevant. And this is the one that we work to every single year at Crisis. I'll let you take your photo, Matt. Or you can just nick the slides later. So what do we do to actually work alongside that and make things better? We have a hell of a lot of kit that we actually have to throw in to 10 locations and the warehouse in a very short space of time. So 350 desktop machines, it's about 44 switches, all of them unfortunately are Cisco, it's terrible. 130 phones because voice traffic is a huge amount of what we're doing to keep the logistics side of things running. 34 printers, it's the only time of year where I will touch a printer. And we've got 22 router firewall combos. You might notice that that's more routers and firewalls than we've got buildings. There's an interesting story that I'll get onto in that in a bit. So, this is what our network looks like in a simplified manner from a site out to the internet. One of the first things you might notice is there is no direct connection from the firewall to the internet. It's all going via proxies. There's a really good reason for this, and that's because we've got a duty of care responsibility. So we need to make sure that certain unsavoury bits of the internet are filtered out. And it's also really handy for us to get an idea of what usage looks like so that we can improve things going further forward. So if we start seeing a lot of traffic from particular types of devices, we can help optimise for those. There's also the VoIP in there as well, and the VIGA ACS, which makes life 10 times easier. Actually, I'll go into the story about the extra routers. So when we're actually running it, we have two completely separate networks. There is the guest network that runs in the IT cafe, and then there's the staff network that runs for the shift office and advice. Now, advice need access to different types of information, need to search for different types of information, so they're pretty much unrestricted on the net. The guests, however, there's certain things that we don't want them to go searching for in an internet cafe. One year, someone wiped them backwards. Yeah, that wasn't great then. So fortunately now we can centrally manage everything remotely, which makes life a lot easier. So in terms of actually getting this from the warehouse where it's stored now, so actually someone will be packing it now, to being up and running. So there's 350 loaned desktop machines. And they're fresh out of the box and they're blank. We've got to get these up and running. We used to run around with a USB stick, going around plugging into each one and imaging them. Now we're using UMS, so we're deploying that as a nice, easy, pull the image, off you go. We can get through these sites really quickly. This year, we've got 2 days to do all the sites because of when term finishes and when we're opening. But we have got 200 additional people just for this task. So yes, that covers the bit that I did about the joke earlier with the router. So in terms of how we support this, we've got a team of on-site IT troubleshooters, which they're brilliant. They solve most of the problems straight out there. And then we've got 9 staff that are working on a 3-shift rotation pattern to cover the 24 hours as our second line. And then from there we've got a 24-hour support with all of our providers that are upstream. So that's Bradwell doing the VoIP, we've got Netstar doing the Citrix backend, and we're using Zen for the Wi-Fi connectivity. and Zendesk actually pulls it all together so we can all communicate effectively. Now, I've said what we've done, but I think actually there are some people that can say things far better.
Just like to say Merry Christmas to all the volunteers of Crisis. Thank you very much. I put about 2 stone on your weight.
I see a road where I go.
You know, you're sort of sitting on the park thinking, hold on, you know, sort of a day and a half ago I was, you know, one of the boys over in Iraq, and then all of a sudden now I'm thinking, where do I go from here?
The level of fear that one homeless person gets when they finally have to accept that the piece of concrete that they find outside is where they're going to have to sleep for the night.
When you're sort of sleeping on the floor, if you've got problems like that, problems and spinal problems, it's not conducive to your health.
OMG. Especially when people walk around with cardboard signs saying they've got haircut, Reiki, yoga. Well, it's like a health centre, really. It really is. You can just walk in and everything you need is here.
I walked in, Lucy and the lady who just went past Charlotte, and she was like, right, do you want something close? I'm like, yeah, please. And as I walked in today, they still remembered my name, they didn't forget about me.
You say thank you to everyone, like already, teas, glasses, mental health.
They are making us fat, just 3 meals a day, yes, and pudding with it, yes. So that's why I've been using the keep fit, doing the keep fit here.
I feel good, I feel happy, I feel emotional.
You know, because of my benefits, I need to do my job searching all that.
And that's a good thing about Crisis, you know, you're not just coming here on a roof and food for 4 or 5 days, you've got access to dentists, doctors, potential housing agencies.
There's even a lot of fisheries, which I think is really cool. But I would find a different hairstyle every day.
Volunteers are all lovely. I met one called Helen, and she is absolutely wonderful. She's so like kindred spirit.
Without volunteers, that's like school open.
If I were to come across Crisis for Christmas, I would be sleeping rough on the streets in the cold.
It's the after plan care that they have. They don't just send you back out to the road. I mean, great, having 5 days off and being in the room. What's the point if you've got nothing to do after that?
And I'm hoping like every New Year to access the skylight centres to better my maths and then retraining into a job. So Crisis is really another hope.
That's about, I feel like crying, you know? Because it makes me feel good, makes me feel homely, makes me feel human.
Nothing's going to stop. I make my way. Oh, I make